but I'm consistently amazed that there are people out there that aren't familiar with their county or state arts council, and some of them can be bureaucratic, certainly, but it's still worth it to get involved with those. So those are basically the top resources on my list that I like to make everyone aware of, and I might give shout outs to other ones while we're talking and getting questions answered. But part of my other reason for being on this call for you, and I really want to thank Carlton for putting this together, because apparently, and Shannon, because this is completely new for Alternate Roots to be doing something like this. But part of the other reason I like talking to you guys is because you have very different needs than the artists I'm normally talking to, and granted, some of them are certainly the same, but many of them are different, and I'd really like to hear from you beyond the sort of factors of money that we're always dealing with, and in some cases a lot of artists have trouble getting space and things like that. I'd love to hear what your needs are and how, and hopefully we can figure out a way to address those, because that's the only way we develop new programs, is if we've heard from our members and the art and the field and the entire field of the arts, and know that there's a real need out there for specific services. And just to give you an idea of some of the things that are on our back burner, which are either in progress or things that will be starting soon, one of the things that I'm really excited about is we want to develop a national consultant and coach database, so that you guys don't have to go on Craigslist or something like that to find a grants writer who then absconds with your money and doesn't write you a grant application. So not just for grant writers, but for all sorts of consultants and coaches, we're looking to develop not only a database that's completely up to date, but something where we basically give approval to those consultants and coaches that are on the database. So that's something that I'm hopefully going to start working on in January, so maybe it'll be up in a year or so, depending on certain factors. Two other programs that are piloting in New York. One is an advocacy program called Place and Displaced, which is basically we are analyzing what's happened in terms of gentrification in certain neighborhoods in New York, and it's a civic participation advocacy effort where we're getting people registered to vote. We're getting everyone in the community, besides the artists, to talk to one another. We're getting artists involved in the political process. We're getting assembly people aware of the artists in their community. This is an exciting project we're working on, and we hope that this can be used as a template in other neighborhoods and communities across the country. So we're going to see how that plays out in New York. We're almost done the final phase of our first neighborhood. And the last pilot program that we have as a result of a merger that happened a few months ago is that we have a completely up-to-date space database, a rehearsal and performance space in New York. It's completely free to use, so if any of you are planning on taking your work to New York, feel free to use it. It's just nycpaspaces.org, so nycperformingartspaces.org. And now that we've merged with this company that did this, we'd also like to use this as a template to take to other cities, neighborhoods, communities, etc. across the country. So those are a few of the things on the back burner, but I really love to hear from you. If you have any questions about our services, about other resources that you think may or may not be available to you, and I'd love to get your thoughts on your needs. So I'll let Shannon moderate from here on out.
Yeah, and I'm not going to do a whole lot of heavy lifting on that, but I just want to remind everybody, or let you know for the first time, if this is your first time on a call with us, that we have certain conference call protocol that we try to match so that people can all understand each other. Of course, one at a time is always helpful, but also as you begin your question, if you could start with your name and where you're from, that would help, particularly the first time you speak. We'll probably pick up on who you are if you get into quite a conversation, but let us hear from you. Let's go ahead and have the first question. So,
any thoughts or anything on needs that you guys have as organizations or as individual artists that you think we might be able to address down the line or otherwise? Like anything that you're particularly struggling with right now?
Nick Wester, Richmond, Virginia. One of my questions was with the TCP organization, we're looking to expand outlets that we may be able to utilize our artistic creations with, and we were trying to get into some sort of performance track for area and community high schools and secondary learnings as well, and was just wondering if there were any services, outlets, or places for information where we could obtain maybe that step in the doorway.
To kind of put your foot in the door to high schools and other educational, not organizations, but other types of schools and things like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, the deal is that, unfortunately, there is not currently a national service organization for teaching artists, which is basically what you would be. And that stinks. And fortunately, people know that stinks, and the National Service Organization for Teaching Artists is in the works. Americans for the Arts, I believe they have, through their Arts Education Council, they have put together a team that will hopefully start this type of organization going. But unfortunately, there's no sort of database or resource in particular on a national scale at the very least that you can tap into. What I would do is I would contact your. It depends on the community you're in. In some cases, it might be like your state arts advocacy organization that might have arts educational panels or groups or listservs or something like that. For example, and there you might contact different educational alliances or arts educational alliances in different states. For example, and unfortunately I'm not familiar with any in the southern states, but in New York we have one that's like the New York State Alliance for Arts Education, and there's also an Association for Teaching Artists that exists in New York. And actually I would recommend that you at least find out or get on the listserv for the Association of Teaching Artists. Just Google that. I think they might be associationofteachingartists.org, but I'm not certain. And I believe that they might have some more national information that goes across their listserv. But just by getting on their listserv, which I believe is free, you could put something out there that says, "Hi, we're looking for contacts in these certain states. Does anyone have resources for that?" And I believe that they would be a really great resource for you to tap into.
Do you guys know if you're on the Virginia Touring Artist roster?
We don't believe so, but we're not entirely sure on that answer.
Okay, so that would be another way for you to go about it, is if you get yourselves listed in publications like the Touring Artist roster. Slash Coleman there in Richmond, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Slash is a touring artist, and he gets a lot of residency work through that resource. And every state has a touring roster, so that would be another way to go about it. So it would be more about the high schools finding you than you finding them.
Yeah. And for example, Southern Arts Federation just had their Performing Arts Exchange. So I don't know how many schools go to something like that. It's probably more presenters, but hopefully just by getting sort of, I don't want to say gigs, but getting gigs like that gives you a higher profile, and then you can maybe send something out to the schools in those areas where you're performing and invite them to come see your work. That's a foot in the door that would probably help. I mean, everything's about networking nowadays and getting yourselves out there. So that would help. But getting on the rosters, getting in touch with any arts education alliances in states, and I think that there are a lot of states that probably have arts education alliances. So just do some Google research, and hopefully you'll find them. But getting involved with those presenting organizations too, like National Performance Network, Southern Arts Federation. Every state has a presenting organization, one or another.
So,
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you want to fess up to being a lurker at this time, that would be great. I'd love to hear from anybody about what it was they were hoping to get today, and maybe go ahead and hear whether or not you feel like you've gotten that.
If I sucked, let me know.
Or me. Well, they're